Hello, it's Bob Barron, and today we're thinking about the earth and talking about earthquakes. I'm showing you my project that I've been working on most of the day. Today is Saturday. I got this thing right? I guess, hope so. Right about there. This is Saturday, 22nd of March. And I've been working on this map most of the day because it's interesting how things happen in life, I really believe. Just 1 week ago, my nephew and I were taking a little trip out to Joshua Tree National Park. And I hope you can see this little map I put together. This is California, and Joshua Tree National Park is down here. But we went out there because I wanted to visit the park, but also to show my nephew Jim a place where you could really see the San Andreas Fault, which is one of the major faults, I guess, in the world. It's one of the most well-known, I suppose, because of the San Francisco earthquake and some other ones we've had in California in all these years. But it happens that a week ago we were out there, and I took some videos. We took some videos, actually made them, and one of them was at a place called Keys View, which is on this little map. I don't know if you can see the detail very well, but Keys View is right about there in this Joshua Tree National Park. So we took a little video there because you can really look down and see this trench in the earth, which is the San Andreas Fault. And then we went down farther into what we call Box Canyon, which is on Route 195, California 195. You're going down towards Mecca, which is below Indio. And we were in there and made a couple other small videos because we were going right past the San Andreas Fault, right through it. And I thought that was a pretty interesting place. I really wasn't sure what we were even looking at that point. Well, so we did that, took these little videos, and then it happens that on Monday of this week, so we were out there on Saturday, and then Monday, which was the 17th, St. Patrick's Day actually, there was an earthquake in California, a 4.4 they said, and they said it was centered beneath the Santa Monica Mountains, which are again down in the Los Angeles area here. And what struck me was they said it was on a fault that they didn't even know was there. That kind of gets your mind working, right? I mean, how many faults are there? We know we've heard about the San Andreas Fault, but you know, how many faults are really out there? And so that was in my mind. Well, I took a trip, had to take a trip up to Central Valley, California, a couple of days this last week. And then coming back, I was coming back over called Tejon Pass, and this is Interstate 5 right here. And I stopped at a place called Pyramid Lake, which is not too far from the San Andreas Fault, and I made a little video there because I thought it was kind of an interesting place to stop. And then, lo and behold, on Friday of this week, which is the 17, 18, 19, 20, the 21st, just yesterday, there was another earthquake down here in Southern California, and they said that one was first they said it was a 5.6, and then they changed it. I heard it was a 5.2, but just today they said on the internet that the USGS, the Geological Survey, had taken the report. I don't know why I took it off, but it may be back on there by now because it's getting kind of late in the afternoon. But they said that one was centered 6 miles west of the little town of Mojave, which is out in, of course, in the California desert out here. So I put a little red dot for that. So we've had these couple of earthquakes just this week. Now these are not major quakes, but even though they do cause some damage and things fall off of shelves, I don't think I heard of any injuries, and I don't even know what they called them. But these were earthquakes, and I just thought it was a time, kind of interesting stuff, because what are we talking about when we have earthquakes? I've been through a couple of major earthquakes in my, well, not even major, I guess. It was right here where I am in Southern California, not too far away. We had the Northridge quake, and that would be on January the 17th, and that was in 1994, just about a little more than 20 years ago. That was a 6.7, I believe. Did a lot of damage. People got killed. I can't remember how many, but it was quite a few. It might have been, I just don't know the number. But it was more than just a few for sure. Did a lot of damage in that little town of Northridge. We actually have a university up there. So in this house, we felt the shaking. It was early in the morning before 5 o'clock, but no damage to us, or nothing major. Maybe a couple of things fell off some shelves. But before that, when I used to work up in Northern California, that is Oakland, California, I was coming out of the offices a little after 5 o'clock on October the 17th, 1989, and we had a quake that is right then. And they called that the Loma Prieta earthquake. And I put those on this map. Loma Prieta here is, they said it was centered, this is San Francisco, and Oakland is not too far away. But this one, they said, was centered in near a state park. I think it said Nicene State Park. That's what they called it. But that was a 6.9, and again, it was quite dramatic. Something you can never forget. We see so many movies that are made up of horror stories, but this is the real thing. So you're looking at the freeway, which is the Nimitz Freeway, and it was 2 layers. Then it came down just like that, and many people got killed. Again, I don't know how many, but way more than just a few. And when that happened, I tell you what I really learned was I couldn't go anywhere because all the red lights were just blinking. The road actually was going like this for a while because the waves of the earthquake come right through the earth and make that blacktop undulate like that. But I couldn't get home because all the roads were clogged up. The traffic lights don't work. So really pretty much what I learned on that particular day, when you have an earthquake, even though it's a disaster, right? Not considered a major quake, 6.9, but it's very big actually. Did a lot of damage. People got killed. But I learned that you really can't go anywhere. If you're in a disaster, if it's an earthquake or whatever else it might be, you're on your own pretty much. And I think that's an important thing to share, and that's why I'm telling you. If something major happens, you really have to be prepared for it. Maybe be able to walk home. I think I did walk home because I didn't live that far away. Maybe it was, 8 or 10 miles, which is not too far to walk if you have to. But so I've seen a couple of earthquakes, been through a couple of them, but now we've had these other ones just recently this week. So I just wanted to put on this map a few things I thought were important. They talk about the San Andreas Fault, which is, I put on here as a red line. Again, I hope you can see that. And what the San Andreas Fault really is, it's a fault zone because there's not just one fault. As I mentioned, that when these smaller quakes hit, they say, well, they didn't even know when the Northridge quake hit. They didn't know they had a fault there. And then the other one we had, the one beneath the Santa Monica Mountains, that one on Monday, they said they didn't even know there was one there either. Well, all they're really saying, I think, is that these exist. There are faults out here, and we're just finding out about them when something happens. What really happens, of course, is rocks are breaking. Part of the earth is being stressed, and something has to give, and rocks give. And why the stress? Well, it's because this part of our continent, this is called the North American Plate, and on this side of that red line, the San Andreas, we have what we call the Pacific Plate. It's 2 plates on the face of the earth. Now, this is not old idea. It's only, talking about 50, 60 years now we've had this idea, that is, geologists have. But basically what's happening is this part of the globe, if you will, is moving that way. And so it goes very slowly. I heard it could be up to 2 inches a year. So if you don't have any earthquakes for 8 years or 10 years or a few years, what you're really talking about is something's happening. Stress is building up. And why is that? It's because the earth is not static. We know that in lots of ways, right? Mountains come up, volcanoes erupt, things are happening, no matter where if you're in Hawaii or up in Washington State. The earth is really quite vibrant and alive, and basically there's a lot of hot stuff that's coming up and making volcanoes pop, if you will, that happens in Italy not too long ago, right? But it also makes these plates of the earth move. It's a little bit like if you look at a pot of oatmeal like we make in the morning for breakfast. It starts to boil and then it actually bubbles over and it kind of rotates. Well, something similar is happening here. Now, I don't mean it's the same, because when you boil water, it's only 212 Fahrenheit, degrees. But this is way hotter because the rocks get, I don't know if we can say molten, but they certainly get plastic and they start to move. Heat makes this stuff come up and it makes these plates move. And therefore, over time, stress builds up, because if you have rocks, we're talking about these kind of jagged rocks, right, which come from mountains. Well, if you know what mountains look like, I think most people do. You have a lot of, you can see lines of rock in there, and there's different layers oftentimes, lots of jaggedness. And so if this stuff is stuck, now these didn't come from the same place. I have two different kinds of rock. But if rocks get stuck, pressure builds up until finally it breaks. And when it breaks apart, that's when you have the earthquakes. I can't say enough about earthquakes, because even right not too far from us, we have, I put on the map, the San Gabriel Mountains. Well, that's right back over here. It runs quite a long ways here. Well, when we had that Northridge quake on January the 17th, 1994, these mountains, I am told, moved up like that much, more than 1 foot in 1 minute. Now, if you know what we're talking about, mountain ranges can be pushed up like that, you're talking about really, really huge, huge forces in the earth. This San Andreas Fault, which is actually a fault zone, which means there are many, many faults. You go up to this part of the Bay Area, we call it near San Francisco. You've got Berkeley over here, and you've got the Hayward Fault. That's a town up there, and the fault runs right below the campus, under the stadium actually. So there's all kinds of faults here, but it's just, I wanted to show you that this San Andreas, the one that they can kind of map because of all the action we've had on that thing, going through the Carrizo Plain, which is a beautiful part of California out in the, it's not a desert, it's a plain, but it's quite dramatic, and that's a place that one of the presidents made into a national monument, well, maybe, 15 years or so ago. But it goes up here, and actually what happens when you get to what we call Daly City, the fault line then goes under the water into the ocean, then comes onshore again. This little part of above San Francisco, there's a little peninsula here, and there's a pretty beach here we call Stinson. It actually runs under the it's called State Highway 1, so the fault is under the highway. Then it goes out again into the ocean, and it comes back on near Bodega Bay, then out into the ocean near Fort Ross. That's the old Russian fort up there, and then into the ocean again, back on, touching land at Point Arena. I put down Arena, then out in the ocean again till Point Delgado, and then out in the ocean again and up that way, way out. But so this is that part of California. That's the name we call this, but it's actually two big pieces. And of course, you've got other mountains in here, right? You've got the Sierra Nevada running up and down here, other mountain ranges on the coast. But pretty much what I would say is, if you have mountains, well, just look at the landscape. If there's mountains or lumps or hills, whatever you want to call them, something's been happening. And the earth is really a very static globe, this thing right here. And what can we do about it? I think just be aware, in case something does happen where you are, if you're traveling, you have to be aware that you may just have to stop. If some danger is lurking in there, you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see the road starting to undulate. That means something important's happening, and you really have to be aware of that. Okay, I just wanted to share that with you. If you look at this, and you might want to look at the other videos, if this is good enough, I'll put it on my YouTube channel. But then you can look at the other ones I made. I think there are 4 others, so they're very short. But in case you look at those, I wanted you to have something reference point to come back to this and look at this again, because I want you to know where Jim and I, my nephew, were. Up down here first in Joshua National Park at Keys View. One little video we made there, and then in Box Canyon down near where that San Andreas Fault actually crosses, and then I was back over in the Central Valley and came across the Tejon Pass and was at Little Pyramid Lake, made another video right there. Okay, so there, I want you to know where all that stuff was. By the way, if you go up this Interstate 15, which is what this little green line represents, if you can see that, this one, if you go up, you can see that San Andreas Fault so easily. It's right to the, before you get to the top of the pass, that Cajon Pass, you can see on the right, it's a trench. Something's happened. You can see that the earth has come down in some way. Well, that's just what happens when the earthquakes hit, when that fault moves. That's about all I can tell you. I hope you get something from this, folks, and of course, I always thank you for just looking at this stuff. I'm having fun, actually. I mean, I enjoyed doing this today. It's so interesting because all this stuff has just happened this week. So, thanks for looking. Take care. Bye-bye.